Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Welcome to a celebration at the precipice of time, where the power of women knows no bounds. Experience Herstory Unfolding, a reawakening of our collective consciousness to the monumental achievements of our foremothers. A tribute to the battles they fought, rights they've secured, and paths they've paved that women all over the world are continuing to navigate and expand upon. Her stories are unfolding, empowering growing, building legacies of pioneering women by sharing their stories, celebrating their accomplishments, and embracing the rights and privileges they've bestowed to us for generations to come.
Welcome to another special day of Herstory Unfolding, honoring women's legacy, past, present, and future here at the Los Angeles Tribune. Alicia, how excited are you for today?
Ava, I am delighted. Today is a very special program because we are deviating a little bit from our format. Today is about honoring her stories unfolding, past, present, and future. But today is about honoring the women in the past, the women that have worked tirelessly, fought for our freedoms, for our liberties, for our everyday rights. And I'm excited today, Ava, because you really get to do a deep dive into the whole background of how her story unfolding came to be, why it is so important, and what we can learn from the women that have come before us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alicia. For our audience viewing this, whether live or in recording, thank you for joining us. And we invite you in this journey of her story unfolding. And it's not just a journey, it's a movement. It's a movement that our foremothers have started way, way long ago, from the 1400s, from the 1200s even. The stories of our foremothers who have gone through the generations, each and every single time, in each and every chapter of her story unfolding, a remarkable woman stands up, goes against the grain, goes against the norms of the days, and demands for respect, demands for acknowledgement, demands for recognition, demands for more things. And we are still doing that today. From the battlefields to the boardrooms, women are continuing to expand, continuing to just widen our footprint and our influence. And really, it's about partnering with men. It's not about being better. It's about stepping up so that our world is balanced. If women step up, and balance, politics will look different. Governments will look different. It's about balance. It's about balancing our feminine power, the feminine spirit, with the masculine counterparts. So when we are wanting and wishing for a different world, it's up to us to create it. And that's what we're celebrating today. Alicia, a lot of times what I always say is, if you don't have any rights, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And so today, starting with the inspiration that we started with the newspaper Special Thought Leader Edition, focusing on women in leadership, we are delving and diving deeper into the inspiration behind her story unfolding. What are your thoughts about this topic that we have kind of like really followed deeply in both in research? We've invested so much of our resources in Her Story Unfolding. What are your thoughts about it, and what inspires you, Alicia?
Yeah, I love that question, and thank you for asking it. It makes me think growing up when they say it takes a village, you might have your mother by blood or someone that has come into your life and really guided you, and it takes a village. It takes a lot of individuals coming together to raise a child, but it makes me think about what does that mean from a greater societal perspective. It takes a village. It takes different individuals, each using their voice, each fighting for what it is that they believe in, whether it is an action, little or large, to make a difference. But collectively, it creates an environment where we can all grow, where we can all flourish together. And so I think it's truly important to think about the individuals that have come before us, to think about the women that have fought for our rights to vote, our rights for education, our rights to be in the room, to be a part of the conversation. They talk about seat at the table, to have a seat at the table, our rights to be able to use our voices, our rights to be able to stand up for the atrocities that can truly happen to women. It's difficult to be a young girl. It's difficult to be a woman, to be overlooked, to be overthought of, to have pain and physical trauma done against us, to be thought of as less than. And what does that actually mean? And who are the people that have come to be a voice for those that may not have a voice? We talked with Parisa Rose earlier in the segment about what it means to walk in your voice, what it means to walk in the authority of who you are. And there are so many people out there that have gone through so much. It's difficult, right? And so I think it takes us sharing stories, but I think it takes just women standing up, women being proud of their voices and feeling like they're not alone. It's easy to feel alone in this world. There's so much going on. There are so many ways to connect over social media, over phone, but it's so easy to feel alone. And it's really just a remembrance, like we talked about yesterday with Katrin, of a remembrance of who we are, but of a remembrance that we're not alone, that there are other people right now around us fighting for us. But there have been so many women, individuals, people, right, fighting for us, for our rights, and to lend voices to that. So it's just one of those things. I think these conversations can continue.
I am so excited about this. I almost wanted to say, "Don't get me started," but that's exactly where we get to go. Is the battles that have been fought for us, as we go through this. Let me share with you, we would love for you, and we would invite you to join us, by visiting LA Tribune Special Edition.com. That's our special edition newspaper, Women in Leadership. That's free digitally. That the LA Tribune, the Los Angeles Tribune, is by public service making it available for free, along with some sponsors and friends. And I want you to take advantage of it, because it's so powerful to see really our story. And we're going to put here what it looks like. So our newspaper, it looks like this, the Special Thought Leader Edition. We have trailblazing women, 9 icons, pioneers, and catalysts of change that we feature in the front page. But what's even amazing is, when you actually go through the insides of the pages, you will see that there's a wealth of really women that we have honored. And so I'd love to share my screen. This is quite different than our normal programming, but I'd love to be able to really honor the women that has gone before us. So here's a digital version of the newspaper. If you go to latribuneспecialedition.com, and that is a gift for you from the Los Angeles Tribune, and some of our friends have sponsored, the newspaper. We have several women and leaders who are being featured in here, and also coming to almost the centerfold of the newspaper is the most exciting part. We're getting there. We're almost there. But before the centerfold is actually this page, Legacy Renewed. And what we have is we went over the women before us who have really, as a matter of fact, who have, as a matter of fact, um, really fought for us before us. And this is amazing because we have picked, from a list of hundreds of women. We really dug deep, more than we wish we did. This special edition for women in leadership really took our team a lot of time. We were so invested in it because what we discovered is that there are so many women who were never recognized, for the accomplishments that they made, just because recognition was not a culture of that generation. Really, I mean, there are very, very few recognitions in the newspaper, and normally they're either Nobel Prize winners and or they're awardees of some sort. Not unlike today, where we have social media, where we can recognize each other. And so we really want to take today's technology to be able to recognize our foremothers from the past who have won for us. And really, the purpose for that is so that we know what has been won for us today. I'm going to repeat it again. When we don't know our rights, we don't have any. And when you go through this treasure trove of women, what you will find is that there are women who fought for us to be able to dance freely, for us to have our free expression. There are women who fought for us to have our voice in writing. I'm just going to make it bigger. And I know that you cannot read it from my screen, but I'm going to invite you to go to latribuneспecialedition.com, and you will find a free digital version, a gift from you from the Los Angeles Tribune and our friends, for you to be able to see really the battles that our foremothers have won for us. One of our favorite quotes that we actually highlighted is, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, 'I will try again tomorrow.'" And that's by Mary Ann Radmacher. You will find a lot of treasures in this Women in Leadership edition. And the moment, one of the things that was really emphasized to me. So we're going to go to Herstory Unfolding, but we're going to skip it for now and go to the next page, which is more women. We've featured more women who have, whether they're in chemistry, in biology, in medicine, in social influence, in politics, they have blazed the trail for us, so that we now have that way paved for you and me. And so I'm going to come out of this screen sharing and just have a conversation both with you and with Alicia. So Alicia, as you join me on stage, I'd like to ask you, when you think of the rights that have been won for us by our foremothers and the privileges that have been won for us by our foremothers, what sounds very close to your heart? Like, what do you treasure the most out of all of the privileges that's been won for us by our foremothers?
Wow, Ava, that is a fantastic question. What stands with me the most is to have a voice. And the reason why is because our foremothers has fought so hard for us. But something that has been remarkable about their spirits, I'll call it their collective spirits for now, is that they had a voice. Because I think oftentimes when we show up, so many people want to take something away from you. But if you can be planted in who you are, planted in your own voice, it doesn't matter what other people are doing around you. You're rooted in who you are. And from that space, you can truly fight for what's next or receive whatever is being given from you. But sometimes I feel like it has to come from the inside out, because people will be quick to try and take it away from you. But if that's a spirit they can't shake from you, they can't take that away from you. And of course, our foremothers have fought for us to vote, to be in rooms, to be leaders, to have a seat at the table. to protect our own bodies, to have ownership over our own bodies. There's so much, but you have to remember who you are in all of that,
Yes.
you know.
That's the most powerful thing, is to remember where we came from. We sometimes forget the value of what we have today, because we forget where we came from, and where what has been already won for us. I wanted to acknowledge our audience. And we've got people who are greeting us: Lynn Serrano, Jim is from Kenya. Chella Moses is always saying, "Hi, guys." This is a community that we're building together, a community of women that empowers each other. And that's our intention in the Los Angeles Tribune. And this is why we're choosing today, the 11th of March, 1-1. Alicia is someone who believes in angel numbers and really looks at angel numbers being 1-1 being the beginning. And we're looking at the very beginning today. We've got Jim saying, that they see Wangari Maathai from Kenya, that we have featured in the newspaper, and that lady was ready to die for our environment. True icon, absolutely. We have really looked at the diversity of women that we wanted to honor when we put the women in leadership together. We also have Riz, who's saying, present standing on the grounds that the past created. Absolutely. We are creating a ground for the future. Yes, that's what we're doing today. Past, present, and future. Riz, awesome. Julie Ann is also joining us, one of our co-hosts in the show. So we're just so excited and delighted to tell you. And Alicia, what you said is just so powerful. In that, really looking into the past and knowing where we came from. One of the things that was very astounding for me, as I looked at the history, we have collected hundreds of women accomplishments who were never recognized before, and we picked and chose who we can feature in the Thought Leader edition. And let me share with you, back to going on the screen, what we came up with in the selection. So going back one page, we have selected, I'm going to make this bigger, 107. We launched this Women in Leadership edition on the day that's the 175th anniversary of the Seneca Falls Convention, which is the first women's gathering for that led to women's rights, for women to have rights all over the world. That was the very beginning at Seneca Falls. So 175 years, we launched this newspaper, Women in Leadership edition, and we featured 7 women, 1 legacy. And this is the spirit of our foremothers, that we really have put in together. And there are women that are very recent, like, for example, Barbara Walters, who just recently passed away, and also Kamala Harris, who's still alive. And we have a variety of women, including Mother Teresa, that you can find in here, Maya Angelou. And our desire is that it inspires you. We have one who's very, very young, Greta Thunberg, who's an environmental activist. And then of course, there's art and theater. There's Oprah Winfrey, who also has created so much advancement for women in media when it was a male-dominated industry. And so my inspiration in bringing this to you today, the 11th of March, bringing us back to the very beginning, is so that you could see for yourself what our foremothers have won for us. One of the things that I have noticed, Alicia, today in today's world, is realizing that many women function under restrictions, self-imposed, right? Restrictions, limitations that our foremothers have won for us. For example, the freedom of self-expression. And yet we're editing ourselves. We're thinking of editing what we're going to say, wondering whether it's the right thing to say, and then ending up not saying anything anymore because, of our fear of whether it's the right thing to say or whether it's the right time to say. And that's something that's our right, our privilege that's already been won for us by our foremothers. The freedom of dance, and we hesitate to dance because we wonder whether it was good enough or whether it's people are going to judge us. But that's something that, some of our foremothers had to fight for: the freedom for women to dance, the freedom for women to dress the way we dress. And really, unfortunately, there's still some countries where they don't have that freedom. So if you're in a country where you're free to dress up, you're free to show your hair and you're free to fix your hair up, why not be who you are? And why not be who you want to be? I mean, why do you have to fit into societal norms? If you wanted your hair a certain color, a certain way, that is a privilege that's been won for us by our foremothers already. And yet today, as women, we still very much limit ourselves in fear of judgment of others. What are your thoughts, Alicia? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course,
Yeah.
as you say your thoughts, let me hold on. Let me tell
It's hard, right?
You need to comment.
And I think you hit on a great point. I think, our foremothers have fought so much, yet there are still women all around the world who don't have rights, who their voices are curbed, hidden, their personalities, they can't have that freedom. And it's, and so we, as much as our foremothers have fought, there's still so much work to be done. There's still so much to advocate for. There are still so many women to fight for. And I think that fight is always going to continue. And so it brings it to the point of like, what can you do with your own thoughts, right? Because sometimes that's the only thing you might have control around you is your thought. And even the feeling of, can I be comfortable in my thoughts, can be difficult. And so it's how do you nurture that? How do you stand into that? How do you pour into that? And it is, and so something that I wish to share is that, in a world where it can be difficult, it can be tough, your experiences can be difficult, speak life into yourself, pour love into yourself, because sometimes you may not receive it around you, but give it to yourself and start there and then see what happens from that place. You mentioned Maya Angelou earlier, and a quote that I've heard Oprah saying many times is that I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. A quote that Maya Angelou said, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. I stand as a person standing in front of all that have come before me, all that will continue to come around me. And it's something that has been a quote I've thought about often. And I found myself sometimes going into a space, trying something new, something that might be scary. And I think to myself, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. Like, I'm not alone. Like, there are so many
Absolutely.
people around me, whether they're physically around me or not, that I can be surrounded by, even if, I'm just thinking about them in my mind, right? Because it's hard, I think it's important to stand in who we are. And there are so many women that have fought for rights, but, sexual assault and sexual trauma still happens. Human trafficking is a huge issue for young girls and young children all around the world. It doesn't matter what economic zip code you are from, it is happening, right? The way that people speak disparagingly to women is happening. In relationships, it's happening. In your homes, it's happening. But how do you overcome that, right? How do you think about and instill love into yourself and find the spaces where you are accepted, find the places where you can be loved? It is a difficult journey. And I think it's important to talk about our foremothers and the experiences that they've had and how they've made strides, and in creating the Red Cross and doing humanitarian efforts, right? Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly around the world, right? They've taken leaps and bounds, and they've challenged themselves and done things that were considered to be impossible. All of these kind of collective experiences are important to be aware of, because I think it's important to know what women have fought hard for. And then it's important to think about, what does that mean in our everyday life, right? Like, what has the work that individuals have done that have created a runway and a path for us to create certain liberties mean in my everyday life? And how can I bring that into my situation if my day is challenging, right? If I'm in a relationship that's hard. If I'm around someone that does not see my value, what can I do, right? And sometimes it's just having the strength to know that something can be done, right? Giving myself love can be done. Trying to find help can be done. Finding someone that's in my community that can help me, even if it's outside of myself, can be done. But just remembering who you are and how you can navigate some of those difficult environments, because it can be tough, right? There are women in the LGBTQ community, women that are queer. There are so many individuals that are going through difficult situations. And so how do you continue to put one step in front of the other? And I think it's through community, right? It is through sharing your voice, sharing your story so that you know that you're not alone, finding individuals, partners, community, advocacy groups, someone in your surrounding to help to lean on, and knowing that you can reach out to someone for help. I think all of those things are important. And I know I deviated a little bit from your original question there, Ava, but these are just, topics I think are important to shed light on and important to talk about, and conversations to be had, and bringing it back down to self and in the individual, and what do I do when I feel stuck and I'm not sure what to do.
I so appreciate you, Alicia. That's what's beautiful about the synergy of me and Alicia, because Alicia is this sensitive person, like, who really goes deep into like this different situations that people can feel disempowered by. And I love that you could speak into that, and that you could resonate with that. On the other hand, I am the gung ho. Let's, we've got our foremothers' blood flowing in our veins. We are fighters. We're not, we're not weak. We're not alone. We stand as I love what you said. Like, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. The legacy of our foremothers. Women are not weak. We are not weak. Like, the things that we multitask and do, the many functions. There's a billionaire friend of the Los Angeles Tribune that I interviewed back in November of last year. And he said that out of over 100 businesses that he has, he only has one male CEO. Formerly, he used to say all my CEOs are females, but now he can say I only have one CEO. And he said, like, women are fascinating. They are built to be CEOs, and he said that he studied it very, 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 very detailed, in a way, going back to how women from our ancestors, are built to protect their offsprings and feed and gather and farm at the same time, and they have this ability to listen for where their kids are, at the same time, tending to, cooking and gathering, and like, they're able to really multi-manage, and at the same time, speak as kindly to a child as they would speak strongly to protect their family. And what he was saying, Preston Brown, is this leader. His name is Preston Brown from El Paso. What he was saying is that women are built in, they are designed with CEO skills, with leadership skills. And it's like, why not tap into it? Because women are already like built from their ancestors, back from like the gathering days and the Neanderthal days. Like, women were designed to be able to both relate, both manage, in multiple things at the same time, hear what's going on, while doing something, see what's and have the intuition, to know that something's not right or something needed to be handled while handling something, so that multi-presence, the multi-sensory ability to be present in many ongoing situations and be able to, like, have attention to that, is truly a gift that women possess as part of our design. Not that we're better than men, let's go back to that, but we balance, we balance masculinity's focus, because the strength of men, I love the strength of men. They have the focus, the tenacity to, to hunt, to conquer, to get new spaces for us. But without the women's nurturing, without the women's gathering, without the women's intuition, without the women's words of wisdom, then we're a lopsided country, we're a lopsided nation, we're a lopsided planet. And so it takes all of us as women stepping into our gifts, who we are, not wanting to be different or wanting to be like male or compete with the male industry, but like owning our power, owning our uniqueness in any industry. Like Alicia, you're from the corporate world, especially in the higher finance, that's male dominated. And how much of even how you dress is being dictated to like dress up as a man to begin with, right?
Yeah, I
What's
mean,
your
it's
experience
interesting.
about
And I
that?
think when I started my career working in finance, I was nervous. I was a young Black woman. Do I wear my hair straight? Do I wear it natural? Can I have nail polish on my nails? What can I do? Right. And I think when I first started, I didn't know what to do. So I defaulted. And my default was to change how I would have wanted to show up to fit in. And I quickly realized I did not like that. It is not something that made me feel comfortable. In fact, it's something that made me feel quite small. And as I worked and I created impact and I was able to show what I brought to the table, I felt like I could be myself more. I could wear my natural hair. I could have blonde in my hair. I could have long nails with really flashy nail polish on. But it was difficult. And honestly, it created a lot of internal dialogue about myself, about my worth and what I was bringing to the table. Honestly, things that had nothing to do with my skill set and what I was able to actually execute upon, but just how I felt about myself. And I know that my story is not unique. I know that my story is the story of many. And one day I just took it upon myself, like I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to see what happens. And if this environment doesn't fit for me and it doesn't work for me, then it doesn't. But I think that's the thing, right? I think a lot of it is institutional in a lot of ways, right? And so it's like, how can we have the mindset to know that we are enough just as we are? And that took me a long time, a long journey, a lot of healing work, a lot of reflecting on traumas in my life and healing from them to figure out who I was and how to show up for myself, how to advocate for myself, how to find my strength within me. But then it's also like, what is in the environment that we can change? We mentioned finance, and Avi, you were talking about women as entrepreneurs and leaders. And why is it that women founders, of tech companies get only 3% of funding? Why is it that it's very difficult for women to secure more than $1 million in funding? Why is it hard for a woman to lead her department across different industries, right? In the medical industry, the educational industry. And I think we've done so much work as a society, as a nation, as a world, because, in different parts of the world, the rights that we're fighting for are different. Some are just basic rights to have my voice, to show up, to be thought of as an actual person. And some is like, how do I get more representation? How do I get more funding? I think it varies, but I do think it takes a collective voice, a collective consciousness to say, how can we make a difference from a structural perspective, from an organizational perspective? It takes a lot of people having the individual mindset, but then it also takes coming together to figure out like what in the system is not working and how do we change that? And for the people that are contributing to things not working, what do we need to tell them so that they can change it? And if they are not the right people to change it, how can we create a runway to bring other people into the fold that will make a difference? How can we influence leaders? When we talk about coaching, I had a really interesting conversation with a gentleman named Danny this weekend, who is from South Africa and does a lot of coaching for corporations. And he says, oftentimes I start with the leaders, right? And the reason why I start coaching with leaders, and he uses drumming and personality testing to help work with the individuals that he's worked with. And he's worked with large corporations, government entities. He says, I start working with the leaders. I start thinking about and working with the leaders to change, help evolve, help elevate, help shift their mindsets. Because when we can work with the leaders, then they impact the environment that's around them. And if we can work with the leaders, that can cascade through the teams, but sometimes it's a top-downs approach and a bottoms-up approach, right? You have to have the individuals in the spaces that have the mindset to say, this is not working, and how can we do something about it to change? And then you have to have the leaders that have the right mindset to be open to the changes. And if they are not open to the changes, who are the right people to bring in? And for some industries, for some structures, it may take a little bit of shifting and dismantling of everything of how the system works to kind of reorganize it, but to make sure that women's voices are heard, to make sure that those that are disabled voices are heard, whether it's mentally, physically, to really have that kind of inclusive mindset from all sides. And it's not, this conversation is about women, it is about gender, but it can really be about just rights, civil liberties for all individuals, and being inclusive to where they are showing up from in their place of life. And how do you create a space for them where they can show up, where they can be themselves? And so that it's not always the individual trying to fit and change themselves, like my experience in finance, to fit in. But like, wouldn't it be nice if the spaces that we were in thought about us? And I know it can be a conversation and a topic that's like, you wish, or very utopian in a sense. But I think our days, our lives, our organizations, the way they flow, the impacts that we have would flow better if people could just show up as themselves, if they could show up and feel like their voice was heard. And it's going to take a lot of change in a lot of places. It's a lot of it's a mindset shift, right? But I think it goes back to civil rights and liberties. Our foremothers have fought for a lot of civil rights and liberties for women, for young girls. But, I think it goes beyond just gender. I think it goes in all facets of life. We're talking about gender today, but what needs to be done. But it's really like an inside out, and then how can we influence the outside in? And sometimes it starts with conversations, right? Sometimes it starts with having an uncomfortable conversation with someone, or inquiring as to why something is. Like, why is it that in the meeting, I don't know, person A can always talk, but person B doesn't have a voice, right? And just questioning, right. And then moving from that place. And then, it's a whole conversation when we think about policies and structures that be in an organization. But I think that's why it's important to have conversations. I think that's why it's important to understand like what the Special Thought Leader Edition paper does, what rights have been fought for, what women's stories were, how they have affected change over time, and then reflecting to like, what can we do now and what is being done now, which is why it's been so phenomenal to have so many women join us as part of Herstory Unfolding to share the work that they've been doing,
And why does it matter, right?
Right. Why does it matter, right? Muriel
Why does
talked
it
about
matter?
healing and thinking bigger. And imagine what can be done when you think bigger. Parisa has done so much for the young girls and women in Iran to have a voice, to fight and advocate for their rights. Katrin is talking to women in the corporate space about how can they, personally optimize their experiences. Sometimes there's nothing broken about you, but it's like, how can I just expand and evolve from where Absolutely. I am, right? We had Rachel Weaver here and Anna DeMartis, and they were talking about relationships and what that means. So many women are doing the work that is known, and there are so many people behind the scenes doing work that we have no idea the impact that they're creating, but they're doing it. Like when we had Mary Glorfield on earlier this program talking about, the work and the woman behind the curtain, right? So it's really about sharing stories, elevating stories, and creating spaces for people to tell their story and for people to know that they're not alone.
Absolutely. Well, I can't stop but smile, Alicia. We are so proud. We're so grateful in the Los Angeles Tribune to have Alicia Magnus Lewis, in our team. You could tell her passion, like we put our paw on something that Alicia's passionate about. Alicia has a degree in labor and human relations, and also an MBA in Columbia University. So like if you give her the mic on this topic, you could spend days with her and she wouldn't run out of things to say. So I'm just like so thrilled to see your passion come alive in this topic, Alicia, of like really expanding. And let's go back to why it matters, right? Like, why does it matter? I love you have posed so many questions, between, the questions that you get to ask, why person A is speaking and person B is not speaking as much. And even, between women and between ranks and between positions and roles, in organizations and even in family, right? I love the questions that you ask. And really what comes to mind is, why does it matter? And there was one quote that I heard um, one of my pastors say, and it's that, listen, ladies, listen, and even gentlemen, listen. We leave for our children and for the next generation what we don't deal with today.
Mm.
So as we think of the things that we tolerate today, know that we're leaving it for our children to deal with. And actually, how it was said is, we leave for our children the giants we don't kill today. So why does it matter? Why does it matter that we look back to our past and see what our foremothers have won for us? Why does it matter that we look back and value? It comes back to value. It comes back to understanding the value. What you don't understand, you cannot value. And what you cannot value, you cannot steward. Because you don't value it, and it's not even a person's fault that they don't steward something when they didn't know to begin with that it was valuable. And how do they know that it's valuable if they didn't know that it didn't begin to exist, and it wasn't something that was won before them? And that's really the story behind Her Story Unfolding. I want to recognize some of the powerful men who have empowered us. And one of them is our CEO, the CEO of the Los Angeles Tribune, Mo Rock, who continuously gives, voices to women, platform for women, the creative independence to say, go ahead and create what you want to create, and really the space for us to make mistakes, the space for us to grow, the space for us to even like look messy, be sloppy sometimes, and yet have the space to grow and coach through it. We have men who have championed us and really have supported us. And one of that is, our CEO. I just want to acknowledge, Mo Rock, who also has the Mo Rock Show. And I think this is the perfect transition for us to do a short commercial. And when we come back, we will be going through the page of Her Story Unfolding. Here you go.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. We've earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
Welcome back to Her Story Unfolding, honoring women past, present, and future. And one of our superpowers is honoring, so I love that we also get to honor our CEO. He has the Mo Rock Show every Tuesdays at 6 p.m. So we'd like to invite you. That will be tomorrow. Join he always, what I love about Mo Rock is that he always highlights and spotlights others. He always turns the spotlights on others. So there will be a group of panels again tomorrow that you will get to meet, and it's very exciting. So I'm going to go back to now the pages of Her Story Unfolding. So you can check out latribuneспecialedition.com to be able to see it up close. But I'm sharing here right now the pages of Herstory Unfolding. And this is what it looks like. This is the beautiful creation of our newspaper designer, Maybell. Who is a phenomenal woman behind the scenes who have created this. And if you look at her story unfolding, it's charting the advancement of women's rights and progress through history. So we started from 1789, and like we walked it to 1839. If I can make it bigger, and if you could see it, or you can go to LA Tribune Special Edition .com, and that's our Women in Leadership edition, where the custody of infants in 1839, the Custody of Infants Act in England for the first time gave mothers of unblemished character access to their children in the event of separation. Prior to that, it goes to men. Women didn't have rights. So for us women right now, you're like, oh my gosh, you mean to say before we didn't have that? Yeah, even if we, when couples separate now, and you have to divide, time with a former partner, that is a right that has been won for us. That wasn't something that was available before. We'll look at another 1839, where the Married Women's Property Act in U.S. law. It's a series of stages that gradually, slowly, beginning in 1839, expanded the rights of married women to act as independent agents in legal contexts. It's amazing because in the past we didn't have the ability to own properties. Women, when they become widows, they can't own their former husbands, their late husbands' properties. They're unable to own properties. So to think, I feel like it goes back to gratitude. When we start to realize the things that we didn't have before, that we now have, we begin to treasure, we begin to value, we even begin to pursue it. If it's not something that, I don't own a property right now, but wait, my foremothers have fought for that, for me to begin to earn my property, for me to have my own legal, my legal ability to own a bank account, to have my own credit score. Now we begin to value these things. And so as you go through this page, year after year, we could have picked so many years. Literally, we could have filled the whole newspaper. We had such a passionate team who just went through, dug deep in research and all of the years, that things have been won for us. But it's amazing because we've chosen the ones that we feel would really resonate with a lot of people, and especially the right to vote. How many women right now are not voting? When it was something that our foremothers have fought for, to have the voice, to have a choice to vote. And so I would love for you to discover all of this. It was beautifully just crafted, with pictures. Some of them were just very, very recent. 1972, the year before I was born, is the Equal Employment Opportunity. It was passed in the United States, prohibiting employment discrimination on the basis of sex, race, religion, color, or national origin. And even before that, we have one that prohibited discrimination against women, because before, women couldn't get hired because they can get pregnant. So if they were in childbearing years, they wouldn't get hired. So here in 1978, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act was passed in the United States, making it illegal for companies to discriminate against pregnant women. So it's amazing to just really look at it. It's so fascinating to see what has been won for us by our foremothers, and to really appreciate, oh my gosh, the privileges and the rights that we now have today. When we're in that spirit of gratitude, when we're able to value the things that have been won for us, I feel like we carry the mantle, the torch to speak with, to be able to pass it on in a greater way to our next generation.
Yeah. And then to continue to advocate for it too, right? The Equal Employment Act happened in 1972, the right from women that are pregnant, but these are still things that women today are discriminated against. And so you have advocates, you have, labor and employment law individuals fighting on behalf of women. You have women passing class action lawsuits against their employers because some of these rights, they're not being cared for, they're not being taken care of. And that's why it's so interesting, her story unfolding, because these stories are continuing to be told, and our foremothers have fought and have planted seeds for change to start occurring and to be affected. But it's taken the work of all of the women of today, the young girls of today, to continue to fight to maintain these liberties and also to expand these liberties and ensure that they are not reversed, that women's rights are thought of and continued and fought for. And so, that's what it's about. It's about sharing the stories, sharing the work of the people today that are continuing to fight the fight, and then also just being aware of what that means for young girls, and girls that haven't been born yet, and transgender babies and individuals that have not been born yet. Like, what does that mean for them? And I love that quote that you said earlier, that it goes back to, like, why is it important? The why? Because when the battles aren't, I'm paraphrasing a little here, but when the battles aren't fought for today, they will still exist tomorrow. And how can people continue to do the work, and how can people be recognized for the work that it is that they're doing, not because they do the work for recognition, but to really highlight and share their stories, just like the team has done so much work to unearth and to ensure the story of so many women that have fought, that have come before us, that their stories are not forgotten, that their stories are told, and people are aware of the legacies they've created, so that work can continue.
Absolutely. And talking about stories, I just wanted to emphasize and actually point out that the Los Angeles Tribune is a perfect place for you to tell your story. If you have a book that has always been sitting in your heart, we at the Los Angeles Tribune have a publishing house. It's LA Tribune Publishing House. Between getting media reviews and be also between getting bestseller status, if the editorial team has deemed that it's editorially relevant, culturally relevant, and really of quality. If it's something that's been your life's work, your desire, we'd love to be able to support you to get that to a bigger audience. I'm going to go share my screen again for you to share the rest of the newspaper. The most recent special thought leader edition. We're coming up with the next one. We're preparing the next one to be launching. And if you wanted to be in that newspaper, go ahead and email us at community@latribuneспecialedition.com. That is community@latribuneonline.com. So email us if you wanted to be on the next edition of the paper. But let me show you the rest of the paper. So we've featured several women. One of them is my mentor and coach, Shanda Sumter, and her family. Some of the powerful women like JB Owen and Marielle, Marie Diamond. So the women and the men that we feature in the Special Thought Leader edition are leaders, and so to be featured among the greatest leaders, of our time is definitely an honor. Our upcoming one is our legendary edition, which practically all of our living legends that have spoken in the stage of the Los Angeles Tribune will be featured at. And we're getting to where I actually wanted to show you. And it's the Los Angeles Tribune bestseller. So we have a Los Angeles Tribune book review, the recommended bestseller. So if you have a book that you have written, of somebody who have written a book that wanted to be available to greater audiences, tag them, and say, hey, here's an opportunity to get your book in a bigger audience. So we've got a bestseller, and we're actually generating this now on a monthly basis versus quarterly. Our special edition is coming out quarterly. But just to let you know that that's something that, in advocating for women's stories and women's voices, that's something that the Los Angeles Tribune is committed to sharing with the world. It's like really amplifying voices, amplifying impact. It's something that I wished was, was available for me at a time where I was making a big difference in the healthcare industry before I shifted into media. And yes, there's a story behind that. And really, even like with Alicia, I in the Los Angeles, we are so passionate, so committed to really passing on the legacy of our foremothers from the past to the present, so that we can win it for the future. We're coming to a close. Thank you so much for joining us. We would love to hear your voices. This is supposed to be interactive. Our CEO Morak is always so supportive and watching our show every day and texting us and saying, "Are you coming live?" when we're coming late. So wanted to appreciate you, Mo. And we've got some of our audience is saying women empowerment. Yes, absolutely. So we'd love to hear from you. Either write on the comment section, even if you're watching this as a recording, or email us at community@latribunonline.com. Go ahead and check out, the Women's Leader Edition, LA Tribune Special Edition.com. And, if you wanted to be featured in the next newspaper among the living legends of our time in the personal development industry, also email us. And we'd love to be able to work with you. So with that, Alicia, I'd love to give you the floor for what your closing thoughts are.
Thank you so much for that, Ava, and thank you so much for highlighting the power of story and why it's important to get your story out there, whether it's through a book, an article, just sharing your story and sharing your personal experiences with those that you're around. It makes me think of the question, sometimes people ask you, "How are you today?" And it's like, "I'm fine," but it's always like, what are you actually going through today? And how can you share what it is that you're going through so that your experiences are not just held to yourself, but you have an opportunity to share with others. Today, I really wanted to close not with my own voice, not with my own words, but through the words of a woman that has truly inspired me over the years, which is Maya Angelou. She has her poem, Phenomenal Woman, and I really wanted to read a portion of her story, of her poem today, and the story that it shares for women. So I have her poem up here, but part of what I wanted to talk about is that it's about owning and honoring your voice. She says, "Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That is me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand or fall down on their knees, and they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist and the joy in my feet. I am a woman phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they still can't see me. I'm a phenomenal woman. That is me." And the reason why I wanted to share this poem today is because it kind of goes back to something that I had mentioned earlier in the broadcast, which is understanding who you are when you show up in a space. She understands who she is. And she says, some may call it lies, but I know I am a phenomenal woman. That's me. And if I were to share a message to close today, it's just to remember who you are, to remember that you are phenomenal just as you are. Phenomenal woman. That's me. Yes, Ariel. It is a powerful poem. I encourage those of you who can to look out and to read the poem. But I just want everyone here to remember that you are phenomenal. You have a story. Your voice is important and should be heard. And to share your story with as many as you can, the people that you interact with, your colleagues, your clients. It's important to speak and to live into who you are. And so with that, today, we'd love to close. We thank you all for tuning in for the background context of why Her Story Unfolding is being told as it is, because we really wanted to take special and intentional time to honor the stories of so many that have laid the groundwork for the work that so many women are continuing today.
I
Thank you,
love your
everyone.
close dish. I wanted to say that, we have women that are owning it already. I am a phenomenal. You are phenomenal. We are phenomenal. Absolutely. And with that, we are thrilled to bring you another day of Her Story Unfolding. Join us in the conversation. I love what Riz just mentioned. Riz just wrote, my friend shared this video, and I can't believe the impact it has made. I will be tuned in every day. I'm inspired. Absolutely. Give us grace. We come live between 12 to 1 o'clock, somewhere there. Sometimes there's a delay depending on the availability of our guests or if it's a pre-recorded show. But we are committed to honor women all the month of March 1st to 31st, between 12 to 1. And with that, we wanted to just honor you, every woman, from the words of Alicia Magnus Lewis and the poem of Maya Angelou that she just shared. You are phenomenal. And with that, have a phenomenal, wonderful day. Be you, and know that you are perfect, you are loved, and that
You are.
you are the light. You are designed to be who you are.
Thank you all.
Welcome to a celebration at the precipice of time, where the power of women knows no bounds. Experience Her Story Unfolding, a reawakening of our collective consciousness to the monumental achievements of our foremothers, a tribute to the battles they fought, rights they've secured, and paths they've paved that women all over the world are continuing to navigate and expand upon. Her stories are unfolding, empowering growing, building legacies of pioneering women by sharing their stories, celebrating their accomplishments, and embracing the rights and privileges they've bestowed to us for generations to come.